When I say the American dream, what do you think of? You probably think of a family, a husband and a wife, some kids, a dog, white picket fence, nice big house, grilling in the backyard. It's a really good image, isn't it? Stability, happiness, fulfillments. It's just a really great image to think about, isn't it? But now, what if I were to tell you that it is impossible to achieve that in modern day America? That it has become so bad that on minimum wage that you cannot live in an apartment anywhere in the country. What if I were to tell you that? What if I were to tell you that our working class is so oppressed that raising kids on a single parent salary is nearly impossible? Well, you would probably scoff at the idea at first because we're the greatest country in the world, and we can't be that bad, right? We're the greatest country in the world. But it's true. Our working class is incredibly oppressed right now, and it is absolutely tragic what is happening. So now, what are the logistics of what's happening? Now let me explain a bit more. So, wages have barely gone up in the past 30 or so years, while inflation has gone up incredible amounts, meaning that people are getting paid the same, but money is worth less. So they have a harder time paying off things, paying off student loan debt, or paying off credit card debt, or paying off all these other things that need to be paid off. And it also limits their purchasing power, so they can't buy as nice things, or like get a house per se. And we will talk about the housing market in a sec. But so first of all, the main thing here is we have to raise the minimum wage and achieve unionization in more companies. That is one thing that has taken a backseat in American politics that needs to be brought back to the forefront, is unions. Unions are crucial in the workplace to achieving benefits for workers. Without unions, workers will get no benefits and be severely underpaid, and that is what we are currently seeing in the US. So, we need to fight for unions, do union advocacy, and make it prevalent. We need to talk about it more. We need, like, if you have a coworker or something, go ask them, hey, what if we start a union? Let's get our coworkers together and actually try and get like better healthcare or something like that. Now, because our wages are so low, because we have unions, the average American cannot afford a $400 expense. This is atrocious, of course, and it is even more atrocious when you realize that the average cost of an ambulance ride to the hospital is $2,000, meaning that the average American can't afford a ride to the hospital. Just the ride, not even the treatment that comes after, just the ride there. Think about that for a sec. Let that sink in. The average American can't afford a ride to the hospital. We are the greatest country in the world, remember? So, now, I've said this before, and I will say it again, and I will say it till the day I die if it's not implemented. We need universal health care immediately. It improves the quality of life of the country incredible amounts, and health care is a right. I will argue that on that. I will argue you that on that if you would like, but health care is a right. I will stand by that. And not only is it a right, it is much more efficient as well. Our healthcare system is currently the most expensive in the developed world, while being the least efficient. That is a fact. That is a fact. And it's a very simple way to fix it. Look at France's healthcare system. It is incredibly efficient and incredibly well run. Say if we were to implement that system in the US, that would improve the lives of the working class in incredible amounts. It would just free them from having to worry about medical bills if they have a condition. And the most important thing is that it would free them from drug prices. The current drug prices in the US are absolutely insane. A bottle of insulin is, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's like $200 for a bottle of insulin, while in like Europe it's like $6. That is absolutely terrible. That is absolutely terrible. And that's not even the worst example. Other drugs, like an HIV drug, cost thousands of dollars here, while it is a few dollars in Europe and Australia. That is absolutely atrocious and needs to be addressed immediately. But you may be asking, well, All of these things seem like pretty obvious problems. Why haven't they been addressed yet? Well, let me tell you. They haven't been addressed yet because the pharmaceutical industry and the healthcare industry as a whole is the largest lobbying industry in the country. They spend more than the military industry. They spend more on lobbying than the military industrial complex. That is atrocious. And lobbying as a concept is absolutely disgusting. Lobbying is just bribing, but it's made legal. Lobbying needs to be done away with, and we need to get our government to work for us and not work for the corporations. Now, after healthcare, the next thing I want to talk about is housing and the housing market in the US. Now, if you've been noticing, the housing market has been going up quite a bit. Houses are very expensive, and in my area, a small town in Montana, a house can cost $300K to half a mil, when a couple years ago it would be $100K. That is terrible. How is someone going to afford that on the low wages they are offered because there's no unions and wages haven't gone up in 30 years? They can't. It's impossible to buy a house now. If you're like new on the job market or newly getting paid, or even if you're an older worker and you weren't able to save up money because of our failing healthcare system, it is nearly impossible to buy a house. So you know what that means? All the rich people will buy the houses and then rent them out as landlords. And then they'll rent more than what a mortgage would have been for the same house. And you can't get out of it because the banks won't let you mortgage it because, an $1,800 mortgage on your current salary, you won't be able to, we don't think that you'll be able to pay it off as well as you should. So we are not going to let you mortgage that house. But then you go to the landlord and you have to pay $3,000 of rent. That's the situation, especially in large cities. In large metropolitan areas, it is incredibly bad, and rent is stupid expensive over there. And the housing market needs to be fixed, and landlords need to have more restrictions on them. Landlords as a concept shouldn't exist. That's what I think, at least. Landlords need more restrictions, and we need to raise the wages so people can actually afford to buy a home. That's part of the American dream, isn't it? To own your own house, to be financially independent. And it's impossible currently. Now, why is our country like this? Why is our country like this? Well, there's one very simple answer to this. Capitalism. Let me explain. Capitalism as a system is a for-profit system, meaning that all companies within the system will be striving for profit. They will be striving to give the shareholders profit and make the red line go up. That is the main goal of capitalism. Profit, of course. But how is the system defined? First, the system is the private owning of it's described as the private ownership of the means of production in a free market economy. That is capitalism. So private ownership means that the owner class owns it and the workers do not, essentially. And that means that the workers have very little power in the workplace. And if they don't have power in the workplace, that means they will get lower wages. They will have less money, and the people at the top will have more money, meaning that the people at the top will be able to buy the government without regulation. And that is exactly what has happened in America. There is very little regulation on massive corporations to do things such as lobbying and protect their workers, meaning that the corporations have just bought the government. Why do you think the Democrats always talk about climate change but then never actually do anything? It's because Exxon has bought them out, essentially. And this isn't just one party. Both parties are completely bought and paid for by all these companies. So how do we fix a government that doesn't work for the majority of the population but works for a select few? The first thing that we can do is reform. Reform by electing officials who legitimately care about the working class and what the working class needs. Such as Bernie is an incredible example of this. He's been doing this for years, and he is one of my favorite politicians, and he's done a very good job at advocating for workers' rights and legitimately helping people's lives. He's done an incredible job, and he's one of my favorite politicians. And elect more people like AOC, Ilhan Omar. I know AOC has been a bit questionable, but she still has done immeasurable good. Same with Ilhan Omar and the rest of the squad. They are doing immeasurable good right now for pushing workers' rights and actually helping the working class. We need to elect more progressives. And if the Democrats try and pose a loss like the Virginia governor's race on the progressives, that is incorrect. It's the liberals and the centrists who keep losing. So we need to push for more progressives to run for these offices and push for more progressives to run for higher offices and lower offices as well. Because I know on the elections in 2021, a lot of low-level positions were won by socialists, and it was a great win for us. It was a great night. But we need to challenge these other centrist Democratic candidates in the primaries as well. And in every primary, we need to have a progressive candidate on the ballot, so that at least there's a chance. We just need to keep working and keep advocating for these things, and keep electing officials who actually care about these things, and actually care about improving people's lives rather than just lining their pockets. That is what we need to do for reform. Now, the second option is a bit more improbable and will most likely never happen. But I will still talk about it. I will still talk about it. If you guys didn't know this, America has worse wealth distribution than France pre-revolution. Meaning France before the revolution, of course. Now, you know exactly what happened in France. There was a revolution, and I'm just saying a revolution would be justified in this case, in my mind. It is justified. And now, sure, we are facing the strongest military power in the world, so I don't think we would win. Personally, don't think we'd win. Don't think it's even an option. But I did want to mention it because I am a revolutionary, and revolution is the best way to get policies done. But back to reform. The first thing that needs to be done in our government is get rid of lobbying. If you get rid of lobbying, you take away a lot of the money motive for people to become politicians. Because if you guys don't know this, most Congress people and most senators are they're millionaires, of course. And this is because of lobbying and them owning stocks. If we put regulations on it where there is no lobbying and people who hold a public office cannot own stock, a lot of people would not go into politics, because it would certainly be much less lucrative than it currently is. So those are two restrictions that need to be put in place as soon as possible. And the next restriction I would say is lower the salary by a bit, because the salary is quite good. I'm pretty sure it's around $175,000 a year to $200,000 a year. I'm pretty sure. And if you're president, it's $400,000 a year, of course. But I would lower it down to minimum wage. That's what I would do, because minimum wage currently is unlivable. It's poverty wages. And how would the senators and Congress people vote if they were in the same shoes as us, as the working class, as the low-wage worker? How would they vote? You know damn well they'd vote in favor of the low-wage worker, because they are the low-wage worker now. That is the only way to get the government to work for us, is to put them in our shoes. If we can't have direct democracy, we have to make them actual representatives of the people by making them part of the people and not an elitist group anymore. That is what we have to do. Thank you guys. I hope you guys all enjoyed watching. This was a very good I enjoyed making this video, and yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed. Remember to subscribe, like, comment, do all that stuff. I really appreciate all the support on the videos, and yeah, if you guys wanted to debate me, there's the link to the Discord on my Twitter, or just DM me on Twitter, and we can set that up. So thank you all for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you